What's going on, people? Welcome back to the player ratings. Unfortunate defeat at home. Sellers was rocking. Palace lost 1-0. I've also lost my voice as well. But as always, we want you guys to be involved in the player ratings as we discuss the individual performances. Send in your ratings in the comment section down below and let us know whether you agree or disagree with us. Joined by Patrick here to discuss that performance. Patrick, look, unfortunate defeat. It was fine margins. It was the penalty. And of course, we have to start off, as we always do, with the goalkeeper who was involved in a goal that we conceded. Sam Johnston, 6.5 from you, 5.5 from me. For the penalty, it seemed like we switched off as a team. But do you think that's the reason why you gave him a low rating? Because apart from that, I thought he had a solid performance.
Well, I gave him a higher rating than you did. But yeah, I mean, honestly, what I like about Johnstone is how he commands the box. He's so good on crosses. He punched a few out, made a couple of good, just reflex punching saves. And his distribution is very, very good. The only issue I had today was the penalty. And unfortunately, Kobe lost the game. I marked him down. But if it had not been for that, he had a really good game. But the penalty, I get you got to come out on Ketia. We switched up as a team, but it's a poor penalty to give up. So that's why I gave him 6.5.
It's annoying though, man. It's annoying because I was thinking the first 15 minutes of second half, if you can keep that tight, we don't concede then. The space would have opened up. Arsenal would have been more under pressure and maybe we could have got something out of the game. But still, credit to us that we defended well enough to only lose 1-0, as frustrating as it is. Of course, I don't think losing 1-0 is fine all of a sudden, but it's the way that we lost. It could have went other way if we just didn't lack that concentration. But as you said, Johnson, in terms of his stats, his distribution wasn't as great, 65.2%. But from the eye test, especially at the start of the game, I thought it was fantastic when Arsenal were putting him under pressure. Now, moving on to the right back, Joe Ward. That was one player that I was looking at going into this game, 7.5 from you and 7 from me. Because Martinelli, I guess Joe Ward, pace, young player, attacking him. But I thought he done relatively well. And he limited the chances. There wasn't that many times where Martinelli just ripped Joe Ward apart. And I thought Joe Ward held his game relatively high for the 90 minutes.
Have to give him credit. I'm not going to lie to you, D. During the preview podcast I did with Nick, my biggest fear was Martinelli versus Ward. I was definitely afraid of it. But again, credit to Ward. Played really, really well today. Really did. Played really well.
Yeah, 100%. He had 34 touches, and in terms of distribution, 85.7%. So accurate passes was solid as well. 2 out of 2 ground duels won. And he didn't win no aerial duels, but relatively solid game. Kept Martinelli as quiet as possible. Now, Anderson, once again, I thought he had a good game. As you can see, we both agree with that. 8 from both of us. And in terms of distribution, very solid, 87.9% passing accuracy, 81 touches, very involved, especially in the second half when they had that red card. 5 out of 7 ground duels won, 1 out of 2 aerial duels won. So all around solid performance from him. And then Mark Gahey, I think we both agree that as well. Relatively solid performance, not anything different to Anderson, just better passing accuracy. But we both gave him an 8 rating, 92.9%. So very good there, and 81 touches, 1 tackle, 1 interception, 2 block shots, 2 clearances. So both of them had a pretty solid performance. Now, Saka, that's a player that you want to stop in this game, and Tyreke has been someone that's been on the highlight of Palace fans for like a season or so, because people are saying he's dip of performances, his form has gone. But today, Patrick, I thought we both agreed. 8 out of 10. He kept Saka as quiet as possible. He was switched on from the first to the last minute, and also involved going forward, tried to put in a few crosses. All around, I was very impressed by Mitchell, because I know Arsenal fans were worried about him due to his name. A lot of people talk about Mitchell's name, and they tend to forget that he has dropped that bit of performance over the past season or so in terms of what we're used to. But today, he looked like the Tyreke that people were worried about. Very solid defensively, and he kept one of the best wingers in the whole league quiet as possible, as quiet as he can, do. So yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, Mitchell played really well today. Again, going up against Saka, so difficult to keep Saka quiet. Saka had a couple of chances. I mean, a couple of opportunities with crossing, and he had a couple of wild shots. But wasn't Saka from even their first game this season. Great job by Tyreke. Again, I was worried about that matchup. Not because I worry about Tyreke more than I worry about. I just very, very much rate Saka. He's just one of the best players in the world. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. What I liked about Mitchell though was getting forward.
Yeah,
For me, Schlupp was more interested in defending and not really going forward. And we again, just like Sheffield United, really used Mitchell as an outlet. Crossing, he had a great cross to Edouard that Edouard put wide on the header. And unfortunately, I hate to say, he did have a chance late in the injury time, a shot that he hit over the bar. A little more composure because Ramsey had already flapped at the balls on the ground. If he put a little more composure, he scored. But he's not a striker, he's not midfield, he's a defender, so I can't really kill him. Had he scored that goal, he gets a 10 out of 10 because it would have been a great point for us. But overall, Mitchell again, and I'm very happy to see him bouncing back to the old Tyreke. Very solid today.
And I hope it continues that against Brentford, especially going forward, because we need that. We need that, especially with the wide players that we have right now. But yeah, overall, very, very solid performance from Tyreke against Arsenal. Now moving on to the midfield, an area that we were actually quite excited to see against Arsenal, and I thought they've done a relatively decent job. Let's start off with Lerma, 7.5 from you and an 8 from me. All around, very solid performance, Patrick, I thought. Once again, he looked like he was up for the task, especially when Arsenal went long against Havertz in the air in terms of being physical. And I thought he was relatively solid there, even though the stats don't show it. He only won 1 out of 3 aerial duels, but it seemed like he was more up for it in terms of physically. And I thought his passing was solid as well, needing 90% passing accuracy. And he was just scattering around all over the place, trying to pick up the ball. I was impressed.
Yeah, the double pivot of him and the core have been very, very good so far. Very solid against a very tough midfield in Havertz, Odegaard, and Rice played really well today. Again, it's only going to get better. And what I'm very impressed with him is his defensive ability, especially in the air, has been very, very good. And also his passing is much better than it was in the preseason. Just 88% is phenomenal for a midfielder, especially someone that people don't think is a great passer. So great job by Lerma today. And by Decore, who we'll get to next.
Exactly. And Decore, we gave both, same rating. So I gave it 8, you gave it 7.5. And in terms of stats, there isn't anything majorly different. I mean, Decore had a very solid passing accuracy, 85.1%. In terms of accurate passes, he won 2 out of 3 aerial duels, so more than Lerma, which is maybe surprising. At 2 out of 5 ground duels, and I thought he was, solid. Both of them, they just work so well off each other, and it did work to an extent. I think where Arsenal, you can maybe have that debate on who won the midfield. I think Arsenal probably might have won it because they nullified our biggest threat on the pitch. And talking about that biggest threat, let's bring them up. In terms of Eze, 5.5 from me, 6 from you. In terms of creativity, I think there was too much on him, and it was much easier to mark Eze out of the game. It kind of reminded me of when we was relying on Wilf so heavily back in all those years when we only had one creative player. And for Arsenal and for Eze, I mean, he didn't have anyone to really play out of. If there was Elise and Eze combination, that would be a bit more dangerous, or Elise of, not Elise, Eze or France combination as well. But it was just Eze. It was just Eze as a creative player. And that's why we talk about depth. That's why we talk about talent. And, for me today, it was not necessarily that Eze done anything bad. It was Arsenal being so well defensively that he couldn't really get on the ball. And when he did, there was always a player on him. And it was much easier for them to mark him out of the game. That's how I felt, Patrick. But for you, Eze, what was it today that you gave him a 6, a very average rating in comparison to Sheffield United?
It might not be a lot. I think I actually make it maybe a 6.5 or a 7, and I'll tell you why. The stats for me are excellent. It's just the performance. The eye test didn't show it. He had completed the most dribbles in the match, which was 3. He only misplaced 2 passes, and 95% passing accuracy. He won 6 out of 9 duels, so he was actually much better defensive than I thought. My issue with SA, there are 3 things, actually 2.5. One is that I think he got more involved in the game. Stan made a great point during the previous show. He didn't look to drop into pockets of areas where there was space, because obviously you have Lerman Decore behind you. You ain't got to defend. You got to get the ball. And I thought he didn't get the ball enough. He didn't drop into. He was playing a 10. He didn't drop out wide like he did against Sheffield United as much. He didn't really. He actually saw a lot up there with Edouard playing a lot higher in more of a 4-4-2, which is very interesting. I
Yeah,
don't know why he did that, but he did that. Also, he had a free kick D, edge of the box,
yeah,
over
that's
the
poor.
bar. It's poor. I mean, a guy of his quality, he's got to put it on net. But he won the penalty for me, and it wasn't given. He did win the penalty. It was brilliant footwork, brilliant
The
play.
ref,
To
the
me,
ref.
that's a penalty all day. So for me, it's a 7 or 7. It's definitely
That's
high
why I
rating.
don't have a voice. That's why I don't have a
Got you.
voice.
Yeah, I can
Literally,
understand that, friend.
we lost
Yeah,
the
I
game.
get
We
it.
lost my
That was
voice, and the
crazy.
referee. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure sleeping well tonight.
yeah.
But I have to disagree with you on Eze drifting out wide. I heard the comments as well. I couldn't address it. Maybe
Go ahead.
it's what you see at home, but I thought that he was mainly out wide. He was trying to find the space. The problem is Arsenal was so tight in the middle that there wasn't any
Okay.
space for Eze to go into. The only option that Arsenal really gave him is to push the ball out wide. And then when we did push it out wide, and when Eze did get on the ball, that was like their trigger to press him. So I thought Arsenal done a relatively decent job out of position. The only thing that I could potentially say is maybe he could have gave Arsenal a bit more problems by switching sides. I thought him and Tyreke tried to
That
play. Well, Tyreke, of course, going to stay on the left-hand side, but maybe that could have been a
right.
tactical thing. But apart from that, I thought Eze was more out wide than in the center today, and the heat map shows that as well. But yeah, it
What
was
side?
pretty
Left
much
or right
Arsenal's
side?
tactical setup.
Left or right side? The heat map. Is he more on the right side or left side? Heat map.
So he
Can you see
was
it or no?
on the left side. That's why he was
Okay.
linking up with Tyreke. But then again, what happened was what I spotted on the pitch was that whilst Eze was on the left hand side, when we did switch it down the right, there was a bit more space because Arsenal were just trying to close down the left hand side. And maybe that's the only thing that we could have done a bit differently. But
Okay.
then again, the moral of the story is we're asking a lot from Eze. He's a very good player, very good creative player, but you can't only have one of them in your side. And maybe without injuries with Elise and France, that could have been different,
Right.
but we still need a bit more strengthening in depth. Now, let's move on to
Fair enough.
Jeffrey Schlupp today. You know what? I've been busy, as you can see from doing all these shows. I saw a lot of comments. You gave a 6, I gave a 6 as well. Talking about his performance, but I thought he done relatively well, especially our possession as well. I thought he was trying to get involved, and even in the first half, I think one underrated aspect is, and one thing that Roy tried to get out of Schlupp is that when we do beat the press or when we do have the ball, Schlupp had 1 or 2 moments where he dribbled past 1 or 2 players and used his pace to a better extent. But apart from that, when you talk about having possession and in the final third, I think that's where you see his limits to his game because he doesn't really offer much. He doesn't really have the technical ability to break down the defense that Arsenal had. And that's why he got
Right.
subbed off, in my opinion. But then again, if there's space, you're running behind. But when they had the 10 men, that's when his game went a bit more quiet because he really didn't have much to do. But for you, Jeffrey Schlupp, better than Sheffield United. Sheffield United, I thought, especially in the first half,
Okay.
we got a bit more involved, but in the second half, bit quiet.
Yeah. Listen, the stats show he had a really good. He had a decent game. The eye test doesn't show that. Again, I'm gonna watch the game again at some point in the next couple of days. I need to watch it with more clarity on him. But again, this is the issue for me, right? And this is for everybody. And again, I'm not a Schlupp basher, but what we're doing now, because we have no choice, we're comparing him to who played there before, and it's never gonna, there's no comparison. So I get why I probably thought he didn't. Well, he to me was very quiet the first half, even though stats said he wasn't that. He actually got involved more than I thought, but he only had like 11 touches first half. But again, you're right. He does drive the ball forward. I think he helped a lot with Saka too. I got to give him credit because Saka was
Yeah, that's what
quiet,
I'm
but a
saying.
lot of
Our
times I did see him
possession.
helping with
Yeah.
Saka. So yeah, out of possession. So yeah, fair
So
enough,
there's
D. Fair
stuff
enough.
that you don't really see in the stats, but I thought down the left hand side, filling in them gaps, them half spaces, and closing them where Arsenal can't
Yeah,
attack you.
yeah,
I thought he done a relatively decent job, and that's why I think people were getting onto him because they were looking at his attacker side of the game, which yes, it wasn't as great. Maybe in the first half, he had a bit more opportunities to do more when the space were open, but I think Roy used him as a player that can, track back and try to close a half space. He has a bit of pace and a bit of strength. It's clearly put on a bit of weight. But then again, in the second half, when they did have that 10 men, that's when you saw the less out Schlupp. But let's move on to
yeah.
Jordan Ayew. 8 from you, 7.5 from me. Very good performance. He put a few crosses into the box, and maybe Edouard could have done a bit better, getting in behind. But tracking back, solid in attack, done as much as he can do, and yeah, overall happy.
Yeah, same. I mean, was our main outlet, honestly, and it's tough. So no, I
Yeah,
mean, solid game for him.
yeah. And then Edward, I thought his hold up play was better.
It's much better than
And
it's been. It's getting
similar
definitely
to
getting
Sheffield
better.
United, yeah, 1-2 touches off it. But there's a lot of people talking about him saying he wasn't involved as much. He had 31 touches. For me, I think it's a case of, as I said, down the middle, there wasn't any space for Edouard to operate, not even Edouard Eze to operate, and I think that impacted his game. But yeah, I still think we need another striker. But yeah, it
Um,
wasn't a bad performance from Edouard.
I don't think it was. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing for Edouard. The hold up play, which is his worst part of his game for me, has gotten much better. I'm encouraged
Yeah,
by it. Listen, he probably was a little bit tired. He's gonna be playing a lot more. So we all talk about, give him a run of games. He's gonna get them. So hopefully, and if he buries that header, it's a different story. If he buries that header with a great performance,
yeah,
it's a different. We're talking something different. You know what I mean? So that's how it goes. But no, I'm not. I'm happy with Edouard as far as the effort and the performances so far. He looks like he's involved, which is what I was complaining about him. So hopefully next week he'll bag a hat trick next week.
exactly. Yeah,
Watch.
yeah. Brentford will be more of a realistic game for him,
Yeah,
especially if
definitely.
there's chances
Yeah.
in the box. Arsenal solid defensively. Now let's move on to the bench quickly, and there's an interesting place to talk about. Jess came on today. 7 from me, 6.5 from you. I'll be honest, I know it was not a massive cameo. He didn't play that many minutes technically,
Right.
maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes with added time. But he just, simple as he's a winger, so we might as well start playing him because we don't have anyone else. As I mentioned, Schlupp, he's not going to be Zara replacement. I don't think Jez is as well, but at least Jez can play out wide. I'd rather have Jez and Ayu, on the pitch than Schlupp and Ayu, especially against Brentford. But we're gonna have a preview show, so make sure you subscribe to not miss out on that. But for you, Jez, he looked exciting when he came on.
Listen, man, the most exciting sub I was kind of being facetious in the last show that I've seen Roy making as a past manager. It was great to see him on the pitch. I'm just glad. Let's hope it's not the first, and then we don't see him again for like 5 matches. He was exciting. He gave a little energy. Only had 9 touches. Wish he'd gotten the ball more. It wasn't his fault. He had a block shot. Had a great no look past Ayu that Ayu just didn't read. But listen, man, I'll say it again. Do not loan him out. Leave him in the squad. Give him some time before Lisa gets back. Lisa comes back. Make him a late sub. Give him some minutes on the other side. Let the kid play, man. I don't care about a loan championship. I'm not interested in it. We need something off the bench. He's exciting. He can do it. Please let Saki stick around. So please, I'm
Yeah.
begging you, Roy. I don't
Yeah,
beg.
let
I'm
us know
begging
what
you.
you guys think as well. Do you think Raksaki will get the opportunities? It's a bit hard, but let us know in the comment section down below. And finally, Ahamada, 6.5 from you, 7 from me. He came on for 16 minutes, 19 touches within them 16 minutes. And he's another player that was very good in preseason. So I expect to see a bit
Yeah.
more of him, especially when we talk about lack of creativity. And, he looked up for it. Of course, he didn't create that many opportunities. When he was on the ball, he looked decent. And yeah, and I thought Jess and Hamada had a relatively solid game. Now moving on to the manager, 6.57. But I know you wanted to change your rating, Patrick. You wanted to give Hodgson a 7.5 after we
I
locked
do.
in our ratings. So we'll give you that. It's the first time game of the season. So let's say it's a 7.5. The overall,
Can I
I
say
thought
why?
tactically, it was the right approach to the game. I think it's the quality that let us down. We had a few opportunities on the counter. Maybe with 10 men, we could have had a bit more shots, but I think Roy done all he can. He put all the attackers out there. I mean, he took a Ward and put on Jez on the pitch, which we haven't really seen before, a 10 type of move. So I was happy with Roy. And yeah, I don't think there's anything really bad to say about him. Saying that I gave 7 because we didn't get anything out of the game, and maybe we could have been a bit better in the final third when we had 10 men.
So my only issue is, and again, I think we're showing these big clubs, if you want to call Arsenal, too much respect. And I get the approach and I understand it, but as I was watching the game, for most of the first half, we had like 19 to 23% possession. To me, not enough for a home match. I don't care who you're playing against. I don't care because that mentality has to change. But I get it. You're right, D. We lack the quality out wide. Players like front, so he comes in hopefully or Lisa. I get that. So that's why I was a little frustrated. I get it was 6.5. I think tactically Roy got it spot on. What I will say is that I think that as soon as, and I mean as soon as Tomiyasu gets that second red card at 67 minutes, by 70, you make 2 changes. You bring on Raksak and Hamada right away. You don't wait until the 73rd minute for Hamada and the 82nd minute for Jez. It was too late. But again, the fact that he made those subs, I'll give him credit for, because you're looking at having people like Riedewald on the bench and the momentary because of injuries. There
There's
wasn't a
not
lot
that
of
much
there
quality
wasn't
off
lots
the
of
bench.
there wasn't. But we just said that Raksaki and Hamada gave us a little bit of excitement and a little
Energy,
quality.
yeah.
So my thing is, have faith in the kids, and I'll consider Hamada a kid, and let them play. Let Raksaki play. But again, I wanted a draw. I think we deserved the draw based on the fact that we had 10 men for 30 minutes, playing against 10 men for 30 minutes. But I think Roy did a solid job today, so credit to him. I just wanted a point. We didn't get it. We moved.
Yeah, but I'll say one thing before we wrap it up as well on Roy.
Sure.
I mean, in the past, we've seen it when Palace have 10 men. In a funny way,
Not
the
good.
game goes worse, where the opposition
Yes,
has,
I agree.
much more possession. And
Yes.
that could have easily happened today against the likes of Arsenal. But for the first time today, where I saw a bit of a difference, when they had 10 men, we actually approached the game like they had 10 men. I mean, in the second half, we had 61% possession. Not that many expected goals. As I said, we could have done a bit better, but expected assist was relatively high in comparison to Arsenal, 0.77. So, yeah, look, I thought we went for it, but unfortunately, it's just the quality that let us down today. Not on any individual players. I think individual players played to the high standards that they could do, but unfortunately, it's probably not good enough at this level. But look, it is what it is. It's over now. If you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to not miss out on future Palace content. Also, check out the live match reaction where we had guests calling in and having their say on the game. That's it from me and Patrick. As always, people, take care. Let us know your ratings in the comment section down below. And until next time, up the Palace.